that's usable in a court of law.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team.
People are being squeezed across America.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
It's a big day and it's a big night for President Trump, and we know he's going to give a fantastic speech. The theme is the renewal of the American dream, and the renewal of the American dream is underway already. Look at all that President Trump has accomplished in his first month as president. He's going to highlight some of those accomplishments. He's also going to talk about his plans to fix the economic mess that was created and left for him by Joe Biden in his administration. He's going to dive into foreign policy, talk about his intention to end the war in Ukraine, talk about his plan to bring all of the hostages out of Gaza home. And he's also going to make an ask of Congress tonight. We need more border funding to continue with these deportations that have been incredibly successful because of the efforts of this administration, but we need more resources.
Well, there's Caroline Leavitt talking about the president's speech that is unfolding in the last 24 hours. All of a sudden, it looks like a prequel to the State of the Union speech from what she described, along with apparently some new policy ideas, the latest that we've heard about that. I'm Randy Tobler in with Stephanie Bell and Drake Whitman. John Marsh, I think, is readying himself to get down to Buck Heights, who, along with so many of the Zimmer news staff, as well as all of us on air at the various stations involved in Zimmer Communications, for the one-on-one holiday food and fun drive in Columbia and Jefferson City. John will be in Jefferson City at the Buck Heights there.
I'll be there this afternoon.
You'll be there this afternoon?
Yeah.
I'll be there around 10:30 to noonish or a little bit later out at the Columbia Mall. You'll be in Buck Heights this afternoon?
Correct.
What time?
I think
later on.
3:30.
3:30 at Buck Heights? And so go out
like
and say hi to Stephanie and John and all the gang. Drake will be out there this morning. I'll be out there a little later. Peter will be out there most of the day, I believe. So come on out and say hi. But most importantly, we need some money. People who are having a lot of struggles with food, and it's really a big problem. It's a growing problem. They are, I understand, just passing out food at much higher rates than they have before at the Food Bank for Central Northeast Missouri. So today's annual food drive, that's the one-for-one holiday food drive, will be from 6 to 6 at Buck Heights in Jefferson City and Columbia Mall. Right out there, you'll see the big fire truck with the ladder extended. It'll be really cool down there, sort of on the north side of the mall, right off Broadway. For those of you that are right off Stadium, if those of you in mid-Missouri can stop by, drop off some money. If you've got some non-perishable canned goods, that's fine too. Anything really is appreciated. That'd be great.
We've had some folks in the past bring in some kiddos with some change that they've collected over the years. It's a good time to teach kids about giving, especially in the holiday season. So it's always a good day, and it's fun to see so many faces of all of our Wake Up family members.
And the donations will be matched up to $50,000 thanks to the generosity of Douglas Drown and an anonymous donor. Wow, how gracious of them are they. So an 89-year-old Columbia area senior with COPD and other health issues thanks you from their heart. So a lot of folks come out and actually give because they have benefited from the one-for-one food drive as well. So come on out and say hi. If you can't, jump online and get on our websites, kws.com or 939theeagle.com, and donate there as well. So this will be an interesting talk tonight. I think in the wake of Susie Wiles, in case you're just waking up and hadn't heard, Susie Wiles, in a apparently over several different sessions, gave an interview to a Vanity Fair reporter. Why in the heck would you do that? Was Susie drinking? Maybe she's getting exhausted. The reports are she's only taken 2 days off since the administration, came in this year, and was just saying some things that have been taken, she says, out of context, and really some things that the reporter paints a picture of a bit of chaos, a bit of dissension, carnival atmosphere there in the White House.
I was just mentioning this yesterday to a friend in that yesterday Jen and I talked a little bit about how there's been some rumors, over at the FBI, like are Kash Patel and Dan Bongino going to stay? And it really has kind of been a hallmark of President Trump's 2.0 and in stark contrast to 1.0 in that he hasn't had a lot of turnover. And I'm kind of wondering with those rumors, with like this hit piece, with a couple of other things we've been hearing, if we're going to see some staffing changes as we kind of head into kind of more mid 2.0.
Well, here's J.D. Vance. She said that J.D. Vance has always been a conspiracy theorist. And here's his answer.
Sometimes I am a conspiracy theorist, but I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true. And by the way, Susie and I have joked in private and in public about that for a long time. For example, I believed in the crazy conspiracy theory back in 2020 that it was stupid to mask 3-year-olds at the height of the COVID pandemic, that we should actually let them develop some language skills. I believed in this crazy conspiracy theory that the media and the government were covering up the fact that Joe Biden was clearly unable to do the job. And I believed in the conspiracy theory that Joe Biden was trying to throw his political opponents in jail rather than win an argument against his political opponents. So, at least on some of these conspiracy theories, it turns out that a conspiracy theory is just something that was true 6 months before the media admitted it.
He is so good.
So good on the stump and just spontaneously. He is quick on his feet. He's got the humor, the smile, making light of this.
Well, and I can see why that's like how the piece turned out. One of the things you talk to when you're telling people if they're like in court, one of the rules is don't tell jokes, because when the transcript comes out, you can't, there's no emphasis, there's no context. It's just words on a page. So you could see how Susie, if that's kind of their inside joke, like, oh yeah, JD is a conspiracy theorist. And then when it comes out in black and white, Susie Wiles said JD Vance is a conspiracy theorist, and so it's really, what we've seen over time and time again is this administration using a little bit of humor. They obviously all like each other. They get along well, but you could see how, a stodgy reporter, when then it goes in black and white, that things appear differently than what the context really was, right?
Well, and Vanity Fair, for crying out loud, they're going to absolutely take what you just said and put it on steroids, right? They are going to try and make this and embed these little quotes within a context that makes it look like she is just like a mom who's looking at her kids gone crazy, right? That they're all need to be locked up or had to be drug tested. That's the way she comes off.
And as a woman with that kind of power, right, in that position, the fact that we don't see things every day and leaks about people just hating on her all the time. You don't see a bad word about her. When asked about this article, when asked about the role she's doing, when asked about Trump's pick, they all back her up, and she's earned that, right? So I think, if people, the only thing worse than people talking bad about you is people not talking about you at all, right? So.
And look at this picture online on the Vanity Fair article. The picture shows her at the end of a long conference table sitting there. J.D. Vance is the only one sitting at the table. Stephen Miller is sitting on the table. The several other White House staffers, along with Marco Rubio and Caroline Leavitt, are standing. She has this look of, what do you call the emoji with the wide open eyes? Like eyes wide open emoji, right? Like, what in the hell's going on here? Right? Look at that picture,
yeah.
Right? And it's just not a flattering picture of her. Normally, it's not a cool, calm, and collected Susie Wiles, which is, I think, what we see. But it's been reported that it is a wild, wild west kind of a very raucous atmosphere in the White House, but in a healthy kind of a way. There's a lot of open, transparent discussion. J.D. Vance said in another quote that he doesn't agree with her, and they've had public and private conversations about that, and that's okay. I think that is the face and the demeanor, the tenor of the whole character of this White House, and many of us appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't know how it couldn't be the Wild West. When you get busy at work, it's a little bit of the Wild West, right? Like, you're just trying to keep all the balls in the air, and look at all of the things they've had to deal with, and look at all of the things they've accomplished in such a short amount of time. So trying to wrangle Congress, trying to, settle the entire world down and create world peace, trying to stop drugs from coming in the country, trying to stop illegals from coming in the country, trying to fix the economy. I don't, and then dealing with the boss who never sleeps and who says whatever he wants to the media, trying to wrangle the media, right? And get the right message out. I don't know how you could do that job and it not feel a little bit chaotic at moments, because there's so much on the plate. There's so much at stake. And a lot of these things you don't have, I mean, I think that was part of our criticism of Biden, was he didn't move fast enough. And here they're moving at this breakneck speed. And I think they're doing a fabulous job. Who reads Vanity Fair?
She said that, the mainstream media does, and they like to use it as a weapon with a very pointed spear against Donald Trump and anything he's about. Trump, she told the reporter, quote, has an alcoholic's personality, close quote. Donald Trump came back and said, yeah, I think I did, and that's why I don't drink. If I did drink, I'd probably be an alcoholic. Oh, okay. It said Vance's conversion from never-Trumper to MAGA acolyte has been, quote, sort of political, close quote. Vice President's been a conspiracy theorist for a decade. Russell Vought, the architect of the Project 2025, that is to me the equivalent of a biblical document when it comes to the policy direction this country should go in. It is biblical from a political perspective, in my perspective. If you haven't read it, if you haven't read parts of it, do, and you'll see what I mean. She said that Russell Vought, head of the Office of Management and Budget, is, quote, a right-wing absolute zealot. You go, baby. Go, Russell. We need a right-wing zealot right now. We need more right-wing zealots in governance at all levels. When I asked her what she thought of Musk posting a tweet about public sector workers killing millions under Hitler, Stalin, and Mao, talking about Elon Musk, to the reporter, she replied, quote, I think that's when he's microdosing. She says she doesn't have first-hand knowledge. She's joking. She's talking about the reports, and I think Musk has said, doesn't he say he's ketamine or something? I don't know. Some of the most creative people in the world have had some serious psychoactive substance use. Let's just put it that way.
If you don't think Joe Biden wasn't juicing, they weren't juicing him up for some of this stuff, you're wrong.
In most White Houses, said a former Republican chief of staff, in most White Houses, the chief of staff is first among a bunch of equals. She may be the first with no equals, that former chief told that reporter. Well, there's lots to talk about, including Eli Drinkwitz vindicating Randy Tobler. We'll talk about that at 6:35. Yes, it happened. And so much more. And we haven't even begun to scratch the surface. The Daily DC Rundown coming up.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
and we know he's going to give a fantastic speech. The theme is the renewal of the American dream. And the renewal of the American dream is underway already. Look at all that President Trump has accomplished in his first month as president. He's going to highlight some of those accomplishments. He's also going to talk about his plans to fix the economic mess that was created and left for him by Joe Biden in his administration.
Well, that's Caroline Levitt. Here's Stephanie with the Daily DC Rundown.
That airs again tonight at 8 p.m. Central. We are going to be carrying it live on all of our Zimmer stations, so feel free to tune in and, of course, join in on the conversation. 573-874-9390. Tonight or tomorrow morning, we'll be recapping that. We finally got the November jobs report, Randy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not great. We added 64,000 jobs, but unemployment crept up to 4.6%. We've lost jobs in 3 of the past 6 months. Manufacturing jobs in particular are not doing so hot. The Trump admin is saying, though, you don't just pop up a manufacturing facility. It's they said, a 3-year gestation period for factories to come online. So,
and the reason, at least one analyst said, I think Charles Payne said that the reason that the unemployment rate, that headline number is ticking up, is because people are jumping into the job market because all those illegals are being deported and for other reasons. So
there you go. All right. We are also, there's a lot of closed door stuff happening in D.C. today. Apparently, former special counsel Jack Smith is testifying behind closed doors to the House Judiciary Committee. Later today, of course, the GOP is investigating his probes into January 6th and the classified documents case. Both of those cases were dismissed after Trump won re-election. CNN is reporting, I guess, that the committee has also requested interviews with 4 DOJ officials who subpoenaed 9 congressional members' phone records. Also behind closed doors, congressional committees will see the full video of the boat footage that has Hegseth's boat footage. It won't be released to the public, but again, somebody's going to see it. And of course, Hegseth's been under fire about what exactly went down, what was said, what's the timing, all of that. So
legislators on both sides of the aisle are not happy with that it's not going to be released.
Yes, and there's also more infighting with the GOP. Apparently there was a lunch meeting yesterday with Speaker Johnson over the healthcare subsidy extensions. Insiders said that there were raised voices and accusations of political malpractice. There were amendments to extend the subsidies offered Tuesday in the House Rules Committee, and even some of the ones I guess that passed got ruled out of order. It's very tense, and of course they're about to go on holiday break, and those subsidies expire at the end of the year.
And you're right. I mean, this is Bob Onder's going to be with us, Congressman Bob Onder, at 7:08 to ask him about what's going on there. I think I know where Bob's going to stand. My prediction is he's not going to be for extension without some serious reforms, if at all. We'll see what he says then. This is coming into a real problem. This could be a real political stick of dynamite for the GOP.
That's fair. But in other good news, we talked yesterday about how the ballroom project was before the courts yesterday. They were trying to stop it, but a federal judge yesterday signaled he's not going to block the ballroom project, that the construction group didn't prove immediate harm. So new ballroom on the way.
Going to happen. That's the Daily DC Rundown. Now, we've had some disagreement here on the air about college football, about NIL, about things, about the general state. And Donald Trump weighed in the other day and said, Randy, you're right. I heard him say it. It wasn't part of the clip, but I heard him say it. You're right. It's going to be a mess, all this NIL and all they're paying these players. Now, Eli Drinkwitz agrees with me. When we come back, I'll prove it.
I'm curious, how much do you get in contact with your peers about their perception of what's going on there, and is it coach talk, or do you just stay in your silo on it?
No, there's a lot of coaches discussing it and frustrated, in my opinion. And I understand the national sentiment because of the salary ranges of head coaches, that it feels like we're complaining, but we're really not. We're trying to sound warning bells, and that's that's what I believe we're all trying to do, is that there's a warning that the system that we're in is really sick right now, and college football is sick, and not in it's just there's showing signs of this thing really cracking moving forward.
Case closed. Eli Drinkwitz in a press conference saying the system is sick, signs of cracking. The coaches are really struggling with managing all of the chaos that has become now the National Professional College Football League.
He says that as we're a top 10 spender in the sport, but I guess.
Well, because he has to deal with the reality, but the reality, I think what I'm hearing him saying is it's sick. He didn't say, oh, there's challenges and we'll work through it. I mean, he's like, and he's got his, I mean, the body language is like, I'm laying it out here. It's like, the tongue's in the side of the cheek. I mean, he's really, I think he's just laying it out there. There's a problem. There's something I don't understand. I don't understand the controversy about this that he mentioned. Maybe you can help tell me what this is about.
Is it bated breath, the saying? Trying to wait on what's going to happen with this fifth-year lawsuit in Nashville, where you could have a flurry of fifth-year guys now being eligible, and that would just throw a completely new wrinkle in the system. Tampering is at, the highest levels. There is no such thing as tampering. It's just because there's nobody that's been punished for tampering. And so everybody on my roster is being called. I had a dad call me and say that, and I called the head coaches at their schools, that this school and this school and this school called, and they are offering this much money. And, it's you're putting a lot of pressure on young men.
So a couple of things. What is this fifth-year eligibility lawsuit? What's that about?
I think, and I don't know entirely, but I think it's about Diego Pavia trying to get another year of eligibility. So that was, I think Nashville filed a suit against the NCAA to get JUCO members, since they technically didn't get NIL. Mm-hmm. So they get an extra year. I think that's what they're referring to. Sort
of a parity in eligibility for NIL.
Yeah.
Okay, and what's this tampering? What is tampering called? And apparently it's something you're not supposed to do, but from what I'm taking from this, everyone does it.
Yeah, there is a very in-depth timeline of what coaches can do for recruiting, whether that's high school and I guess now transfers. That's pretty new, so I don't know if the schedule's the same, but you can't call people within a certain time. You can't make contact. You can go watch them, talk to them in person during their high school football season, but you can't give them an offer until this time. They have a certain amount of time, like signing day. There's just a lot of different stuff with a calendar that they have to work through, and I do think that that's an issue.
But is it going to become less of an issue, less of a motivation to disobey those laws with the stakes ever higher? Whether you're a coach, whether you're a parent, now the parents are becoming agents. As he just said, the parents are calling him saying, hey, Nashville offered this recruiting guy that said he's committed to you, but, they've offered him that. Now it's a bidding war. I mean, to me, it's all sorted. Now, we had a long discussion about this last night when this came out around the couch. Son-in-law and daughter in from Tennessee. We had a discussion. I can't wait to see what my other son-in-law has to say. But son-in-law Tracy says, maybe we should make all that NIL money that they can't use it until they're out of school. They can't touch it. Begin to put some restraints on this. I don't know whether that would be a single solution, but it's at least an idea. People are talking about this, right? And I think, look, you've got a guy, a coach of one of the big SEC teams, high-profile coach, not Randy Tobler, not Donald Trump, saying, we got problems in River City, and we got to fix them. It's a disaster. Right? I mean, why would he be saying that if it weren't true? Unless he's just whiny because other people have. He talked about how other schools have more money. Come on, step up, Fortune 500 in Missouri. Step up. What about the Missouri State Bears? What about them? Are they going to be able to? They're just now they're spreading their wings a little bit into the whole playoff thing and the bowls and trying to. Do they have the engine, the powerhouse to drive? I mean, maybe Bass Pro can donate a lot of money. I don't know. Is this going to shut out big? I'm just saying. Why is he saying this if there wasn't some truth to it?
I mean, I think that he's more referring to, tampering people, because I think that's something that he has been dealing with, all these bigger schools or other schools that are saying, hey, Ahmad Hardy, it might be week 2, but we'll give you $2 million to come to Georgia or something like that. I mean, I didn't hear him refer to NIL in general is bad. And I'd like to go back to what you said about, they can't use it till after college. I think that's a good idea.
There you go, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Tracy
I like
has
that.
a lot of good
I like that.
John says 573-874-9390. If you're really worked up, give us a call, 800-529-5572. If you want to see Drake, I now know how to this is becoming too easy, ladies and gentlemen. I know how to trigger Drake Whitman just no problem. I just talk about it. It's not even a challenge anymore. Just mention NIL, the portal, and he's like, what are you talking? It's great. I like to see you get passionate. John said, I've said since day one, NIL would ruin college football. And it sounds like there is a problem here, right? I mean, and here's the other thing. This may trickle down to really ruin the professional potential in realms other than sports of high school people. We talked about that. Okay, if you see that golden pot of gold at the end of the college football rainbow recruiting, right? And you're a quarterback in some outstate Missouri school. It's not to denigrate those schools, but you're not in a top flight, highly competitive school with 1,000 graduating class. And you're a big shot there. And suddenly you see this kind of money, and maybe you dedicate your entire life to doing this. And you know what? There will be those stories when that kid does a great job and ends up making $5 million, whatever, $2 million a year in the NIL. But what about all the kids who sort of get delusional about this and don't have a realistic perspective, and the parents get caught up in the momentum, and they're encouraged by everyone. They really don't have the right stuff to do that, and yet they let their academic studies slide because of that. Are we going to see that phenomenon develop? I'm just asking the question. I think the seed bed is fertile for that.
My response is only for stupid kids, because you need to maintain a GPA to play, and that does make a difference in your recruiting if you have a good GPA. That's one. Two, we see these amazing, zero to hero stories all the time. I mean, look at John Mateer. He had no offers. He went to Washington State. He played there for a year or two. He went, then got a bunch of NIL money because Oklahoma saw how he was doing. They gave him the money to come over to Oklahoma, and he's been doing great. I mean,
yeah, okay, I hear you. And that's
our Heisman winner, he's a transfer from Cal. There are a lot of these great stories, and I think that NIL can, change these kids' lives.
573-874-9390. Drake Whitman says NIL, the portal, are the best thing that ever happened to college football. There's no problems. It's lollipops and rainbows. Eli Drinkwitz, who knows very little about it, says, there's a problem. It's sick, and the system is cracking. Where do you place your lots, folks? 573-874-9390. You make a compelling argument, and I understand there are some potential positives there.
And it's not perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect, but NIL is overall a pretty good thing, because these kids, let's face it, these schools were paying players beforehand. It's not like this is a new thing. It's just now everyone's able to do it. That's why you see Oregon come out as the powerhouse it is now. So they got Nike. They have the biggest sponsor in college sports, and they're putting that money to good use. And it's not just Bama, Michigan, Penn State, and a couple other rare schools that are winning national championships. Now it's everyone has a shot.
Do you think we ought to make college football just a degree unto its own, an academic degree of some sorts?
No.
Yes, I think that'd be pretty fun.
Don't they all get degrees in underwater basket weaving or something anyway, or sports management, or I don't know.
Now, Shannon said when she was in the communications school there that in fact there were football players that were doing quite well and competing well in the classroom, doing a great job.
Oh,
I don't know where they were on the team.
True.
Yeah, I don't know where they were on the team, but
A lot of times, I mean, you see these kids come up through high school, and a lot of the discipline that they learn in sports does translate to discipline in the classroom. Not for everybody, obviously, but I think it can.
I just think it's interesting to watch. This has become a spectator sport of choice for this. I enjoy what's happening on the field. It's fine. Many people say that they prefer the college football over the pros, although you're beginning to see, and one of them told me, to be unnamed, said that they used to enjoy it more than the pros because the pros was all about everyone. Some guy makes a tackle and you'd think it was like the first tackle he ever made in his life and it was the best thing ever, and there's always celebrations. Well, that's now trickled into professional college football, right? Which is what you're seeing. And so some of the good sportsmanship you see out of it, and the dancing and all that goes on in that, whatever, that's fine. Let them celebrate. But I think if they're able to celebrate in a positive way, they ought to be able to taunt the opponent too. I think when they make
100%.
I don't understand why it's one-sided. The officials will sit there and watch them celebrate a touchdown, but they won't watch them. They won't watch them when they make a really clean, great play on a hit, and the guy stands over and points on him. I'm the GOAT. You're out of the game. What's that all about?
Hurt anyone's feelings.
Oh, I know. We don't.
You can't hurt their feelings, but you can break their ribs by tackling. Yeah.
We. All right. Well, it's an interesting conversation. We'll see where this goes, but the bidding war is now on. I think it's fair to say, right? The bidding war is on. In Make Missouri Healthy Again, let's talk about our children's mental health as it relates to technology. A new report is a bit sobering on that account. Make Missouri's youth healthy again when we come back.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Missouri's youth, especially our tweens and teens, healthy again. I think this segment is more about awareness than it is about answers, because I'm not sure any parents have any answers. I don't think the experts have answers other than to have the goal of limiting digital interaction just in general with from our kids, because survey after survey suggests that there are lots of potential damages from that. Aura, a company which helps manage online safety for kids and families, and offers some digital tools for that. They've put together combining surveys, a lot of surveys out there of parents and kids, along with depersonalized data from actual use. And what they show is that AI is the new imaginary friend. You know how young kids, 8, 10, 12, they have their friends that they make up. We see that in young kids, especially preschoolers and elementary schools. They have their little imaginary friends and fairy friends and their elf on the shelf and everyone they talk to, They found that when kids use AI, now this is about AI, 42% of the time it's for companionship. Interesting. Not for data gathering, as we've talked about, or for building a spreadsheet, as you've mentioned, or helping construct a document draft and then you edit it, whatever. These chats regularly turn violent, according to this survey and this report. That includes videos or interactions with themes of physical violence, aggression, harm, serious injury, death, or coercion, sexual or non-sexual. Descriptions of fighting, killing, torture, and non-consensual acts. Half of violent chatbot conversations, sexual role play appeared as well. That drives engagement. It turns out that violence is number one. Right behind it, sexual role play, romantic role play. Those really peak in the ages between 13 to roughly 12 to 14, 11 to 14 begins to then settle down, and emotional support tends to rise a little bit after that. But sex and romance and violence lead across the spectrum up through age 17, even 18. And childhood's accelerated. 86% of surveyed parents agree that children are growing up faster than previous generations. A third surveyed parents thinks kids start acting like teenagers at 11 years old. And of course, I think what we've all learned is that kids have some sense that it may be a problem, because when asked what their parents think, 50% of kids would say, yeah, my parents know this is a problem. However, they have a problem disengaging. The digital stress scale continues to rise over age, and it's higher among 13 to 17-year-olds than it is over 8 to 12-year-olds. So I think this really highlights a growing problem as there's more and more seeming reality and a virtual reality, if you will, online with this digital presence for kids. It's clear, survey after survey, and this latest one, that both kids and parents, in different ways, kids may not be as aware of it as they maybe should be. Parents say they're fighting about tech. They argue with their kids over technology use. That beats out arguments about chores and homework. 60% of parents say removing devices usually sparks an argument. How about this one, guys? Take a look in the mirror. Go ahead. If you're just getting ready for work, or if you're in the car, pull over, take a look in that rearview mirror. 60% of surveyed parents say they use their phones more than their kids, even while cracking down on their kids. So it's a do what I say, not what I do world. Oh, a little cringe there from you, Stephanie. Your thoughts?
I mean, I'm guilty. I have younger kids, and obviously I have to use my phone for work.
Yeah.
There are times where they're like, Mom, get off your phone. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, we're all guilty of it, I think. It's a good reminder to be present, to put your phone down.
It's hard.
It is hard.
Kids report that technology use is the number one reason that they fight with their parents. It causes friction when the device is removed. And double standards matter. Nearly 2/3 of our children, this is the take home. Nearly 2/3 of surveyed kids, these are the kids, wish they could flip the script and take away their parents' phones. Something to think about, ladies and gentlemen, on Make Missouri Healthy Again. Congressman Bob Onder when we come back.
Zimmer News Team.
People are being squeezed across America.
And now, introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
We're so excited. It's a big day and it's a big night for President Trump. And we know he's going to give a fantastic speech. The theme is the renewal of the American dream. And the renewal.
Well, that's Caroline Levitt talking about the big talk tonight, the big, national speech that the president's going to give from the Oval Office, announced yesterday out of the clear blue. I don't think anyone saw it coming. We'll be carrying it here on all of our Zimmer stations in Columbia and Jefferson City on the news talk stations. That's 93.9 The Eagle and KWTO and KWOS at 8 p.m. tonight. And I'm sure that Congressman Bob Onder will be watching that as maybe a prequel to the State of the Union speech coming up in January. Bob, welcome into the program. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Randy. Great to be back.
So on the heels of this hit piece in Vanity Fair, where clearly a lot of stuff taken out of context, where Susie Wiles was, talking about the various, characteristics of different cabinet members and so forth, and some of the recent elections that didn't go the Republicans' way, all the way from New York City to Miami. Seems like the president's going to try to reset things. What's your take on the why and maybe the what of this speech, especially with a big vote on health care subsidies coming up?
Yeah, Randy, good. It's great to be back. I think that's probably right. The president does want to, set the tone, do something to counter the prevailing media narrative that, somehow the president and Congress, our party is in trouble. Look, some of these, elections that are talked about, they're basically, Democrat candidates winning in blue states and blue cities. Now, by margins, much, closer than expected, margins less than what Donald Trump and Republicans achieved in 2024. But we've known this for a long time. There are definitely voters who it's harder to get them out when President Trump's not on the ballot. They'll vote in 2016, 2020, and 2024, but then in the off years they don't vote. So our challenge is to, of course, motivate those folks to come out and vote next year, but also to continue the pro-growth economic policies that are going to improve affordability and make things better for all Americans.
I know that Scott Bessent and others have talked about how wage growth has really gone up as a result of some of the actions already in the first 9 months. But I think that there's more to come, and I guess he'll talk about that as a result of that big, hard-fought bill over the summer. Let's not forget that. Can you highlight what you predict might happen and what people are going to really feel around the kitchen table from that bill?
I think the number one thing that the Working Families Tax Cut Act did was to prevent a $2.2 trillion tax increase on the American people, which would have been devastating at a time when affordability was in a really bad way after the very inflationary policies of the Biden administration. So a lot of it was already there, the lower marginal tax rates and so on. But by creating economic certainty, I think we create the conditions for continued wage and job growth. And that's right, Randy. Unlike in the Biden years, real wages have outstripped inflation. People are better off now than they were 4 years ago. The problem we have is that because of the very inflationary policies of the Biden administration, ARPA, and then the misnamed Inflation Reduction Act, we had incredibly high inflation, peaking at 9.2% in June of 2022. And it's not like we've had deflation since then. You really only have deflation when you're in a serious recession. So prices are still high. Things are still relatively unaffordable. But, gas prices, of course, because of sane pro-growth energy policies have come down dramatically. Other energy prices will come down in time. It's going to be a challenge. But I think we will see the working families tax cut kick in, and of course, getting rid of tax on tips, tax on overtime, reducing tax on senior Social Security. Those things will have a pretty immediate effect.
Now, we heard about a pretty tense meeting with Speaker Johnson yesterday over the healthcare subsidy extensions. You have a holiday break coming up there. The time is ticking down. Where are we at with that? And is anything going to get done before everyone leaves for the holidays?
Yeah, Stephanie, as a matter of fact, we will be voting on a health care bill today to reduce health care costs for all Americans in the exchange, but all Americans elsewhere in the economy. The Obamacare portion of the bill we're going to be voting on today, by fixing some problems with the cost sharing reduction part of Obamacare. That alone will reduce premiums for Obamacare enrollees by 12%. These expiring COVID subsidies, and by the way, the pandemic was officially over 2.5 years ago. These expiring COVID subsidies are only responsible for about a 4% change in Obamacare premiums. And then we have other provisions like association plans. Market for self-insured employers, which is where most of us get our health insurance, pharmacy benefit manager reform that will bring down drug prices. So we Republicans want to decrease healthcare costs, make healthcare more affordable for all Americans, not just a handful of people on Obamacare subsidies. And we know those COVID Obamacare subsidies, especially the zero premium subsidies, are extremely ridden with fraud and abuse. So it's time for those to end and time to get on to real health care reform.
That's Congressman Bob Onder in Missouri's 3rd District, and as a vote is looming on trying to fix things. And I'm so glad you emphasized that, Bob. I wish I heard that more from Speaker Johnson, or at least that it was broadcast more. Maybe he said it, that, the Democrats, they keep trying to paint the picture for listeners to their message that if we don't extend these subsidies, the COVID-era subsidies, that all Americans will suffer. That's really what they're trying to say. That's false.
They are really trying to confuse, obfuscate, and the media are helping them with this. This whole business about people's health insurance premiums doubling, you'll notice many times they say on average, and that's because in many cases, the zero premium, which are just, a lot of those are just fraudulent enrollees. I mean, one Social Security number, the Government Accountability Office found one Social Security number was used to enroll 126 times in Obamacare. They found thousands, I believe, almost 10,000 Social Security numbers used more than once to enroll in Obamacare. We found, many of these folks don't know they have insurance because they were signed up at the homeless shelter and given a gift card in return. So essentially, a lot of these, people quote, premiums are going to double, or they're going to lose their insurance. A lot of them don't even exist or don't even know they're on Obamacare. We're just sending checks to the health insurance companies, and that's utterly ridiculous. But that is what the Democrats stand for. And really, Obamacare was written by the health insurance companies for the health insurance companies. No wonder United's stock has gone up 1,200% since Obamacare was passed. Other insurers have gone up 700, 800, 900% since Obamacare was passed. Obamacare has just been a massive redistribution of wealth from the American people to health insurers.
And you're so right. I recall Speaker Johnson just a week or so ago was highlighting a Government Accountability Office, sort of a sting operation, a probe that they were doing. Yeah. And they submitted, 24,
yep.
Couple dozen fraudulent applications, and 23 of 24 were accepted. And I think 18 of them were still in action on Obamacare.
You've got it. And they literally discovered tens of thousands of fraudulent. And two insurance brokers down in West Palm Beach, Florida, all by themselves defrauded the system of $233 million. Wow. Multiplied that by by hundreds, maybe thousands of fraudsters across the country. That's what the Democrats are insisting that we renew.
And, Bob, I've been talking with business people that are trying to figure out how to manage, as you said, it's not just about that Obamacare subsidy group, some 20 million. It's about everyone. Premiums are spiking because of fundamental flaws with an overreaching mandate by the government for gold-plated coverage that employers have to provide. Is there any hope that some of the Rand Paul, which I really like his program, and HSA for every American, is there any chance of that being amended and passed, or is that in the far future?
Well, Rand Paul has a number of proposals. One is a association health plan bill, which we have association health plans in this bill we're going to be voting on today, but only for business groups. Rand has a broader idea that I really like, that any membership, let's say, for beekeepers in a neighborhood or Sam's or Costco, could form an association health plan and buy insurance off of the Obamacare exchange. Because essentially what Obamacare did was outlawed, remember, if you like your plan, you can keep it. Barack Obama and the Democrats outlawed your plan, and you could not keep it. We need to bring more choice, more competition, more consumer orientation back to the health insurance marketplace. Because remember, we've been talking about health insurance, but health care and health insurance are different things. That person having a plastic Medicaid card, for instance, in their wallet doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get good health care. And but right now, what's happening is all Americans are paying through the nose for the health plan that Obama and the Democrats decided back in 2010 we should have, not the ones that we chose ourselves.
You're in the Trump orbit. What do you make of the Susie Wiles Vanity Fair article that dropped that now, she's calling J.D. Vance a conspiracy theorist and says apparently some pretty blunt things about some other folks?
Yeah, I haven't read the. I know the article you're talking about. I haven't read it in detail. I've read some excerpts. I'll tell you, the White House always is a place where a lot's going on. A lot of very strong personalities. A lot of people trying to do different things. I'm hoping as I've seen the Trump team operate, folks have pretty much been cohesive and on the same page on a lot of things. I'll have to take a closer look at that article, but I think J.D. Vance has been an excellent vice president, and and I really have high marks for pretty much all of his team.
Does anyone really have a problem with Russell Vought being a quote right-wing zealot? We need more zealots with conservative thoughts, don't we?
The problem with the first Trump administration is we had too many people working against President Trump and his agenda. Stephen Miller, Russell Vought, and our good friends from Missouri, Will Scharf,
absolutely.
John Sauer at Solicitor General. Andrew Bailey. Donald Trump has a great team.
Well, Bob, we didn't get a chance to talk about law and order and security and Venezuelan boats and everything, but we will on our next get-together with Congressman Bob Onder. Hey, I know you got a break coming up. Well-deserved. Enjoy it, and we'll talk to you very, very soon. And a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you and Allie and everyone.
Likewise to you and Stephanie.
Okay,
thank you.
Thanks. We'll be back in a minute.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
your cash.
It benefits the food bank for Central and Northeast Missouri. And the local firefighters volunteer during the drive. I know in Columbia at the mall, they usually have the truck there with the ladder all extended. It's really impressive to see those big vehicles up close. I just always get a big kick out of that. Bring your kids out and say hi. Maybe, then hang out at the mall for a little while and go say hi to Santa. Be a good day out there. You think about it, how they make that money stretch so far to help so many people. That's amazing, right?
Yeah, oftentimes, they're able to buy differently than we are. And so that's oftentimes why they encourage folks to give cash. I know I've talked with the folks who do the food bank, and they work with the food bank at my church, and they say, yeah, we've got deals. We're able to buy in bulk. We have arrangements with some of the food producers that, we're able to secure, a good deal to get enough food. But you're right. What is it? 3 meals for every $1 donated? Yeah. That's huge.
And the reality is, I think that number bought a few more meals last year because of the cost of inflation, right? And so it's going to take more bucks to get the same number of meals accomplished. Let's just get it out there and be transparent about it. So, if you can, if you've been blessed and you'd like to help people who maybe have not been blessed, we're seeing the disruption in jobs because of the technological changes coming to our world and our country and probably our neighborhood. It's really a time to really give, because this is the time of giving and love. And so spread some of your love through this 1-for-1 food and fun drive 2025.
And it's
Columbia Mall in Buckheit in Jefferson City.
And it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk. People helping people, not any sort of government, right?
You betcha.
So let's do it.
That's right. Come out and say hi, and we'd love to see you. Hey, jobs are actually up a little bit. 64,000 new job. Wages are up. We'll talk a little bit about that when we come back. Later on, Susan Pendergrass from Show Me about 4-day week.
I think just local news is like the most important stuff to me, even though it's kind of like bad stuff going on around me, but it's the most relevant to me.
Where I come from, there's an old plowboy out turning up dirt. Where I come from, there's a preacher man in a cowboy shirt. Where I come from, where a couple boys fight in the parking lot. No, nobody's gonna call the cops. Where
Here we go. November's number comes in at 64,000. 64,000 on non-farm. And if we look at average hourly earnings, they are up 0.1% year over year, up 3.5.
Well, there you go. Santelli's telling you, where's the mainstream media talking about wages up 3.5 year over year? I mean, that's largely Donald Trump. And despite the turbulence from the tariffs, and no doubt there have been, I think people are optimistic about the future. They're thinking that, you know what, if I'm a worker that gets overtime, I'm not going to be taxed on that. If I'm getting at least there's some, I'm sure, some ins and outs of that story in terms of the details. Tips, not going to be taxed. Some Social Security recipients, senior citizens, are going to have some tax breaks. The taxes that would have gone up otherwise will not be going up for families. The child care tax credits. How about those 401k-like devices and investment vehicles for families starting in July? There's a lot of good news, and now workers, again, because inflation has been relatively tame. It's not where they want it yet, but it's relatively tame, making wages look better as well.
But despite all of that good data, polls still show that Americans view the economy poorly, and they blame Trump for not doing enough with respect to the cost of living. So how do you turn that message around? Is that what the address tonight is going to be about? I mean, we've seen J.D. Vance out on the stump. I think he was in Pennsylvania yesterday or before that. Trump is. When did this announcement about the speech even come out?
I think yesterday. Yeah. I mean, this was just like out of nowhere.
Right. And so we'll be carrying it live on all the stations tonight at 8 Central.
8 p.m. Yep.
If you want to tune in. But I think, Trump, we know he watches the mainstream media. We know he follows the polling data. And for whatever reason, there's a disconnect between all of the wins that you were just talking about, Randy, and what people are feeling when they're asked about the economy.
On the other hand, Representative Mike Lawler from New York, I mean, he's in a purple district. He's a very vulnerable representative up for re-election. They all are. That's a fun thing. Ask your child who's in high school. Ask them how often House of Representatives, elected officials, the congressmen are up for election. And then ask them how often senators are up for election. See if they know that. I'll bet they're not even teaching that in school anymore. I don't know. Anyway, Representative Mike Lawler, what are you smiling at, Drake?
Oh, I bet they don't teach that in school nowadays. Well, These kids don't know anything.
I heard that at a prominent high school in Columbia, Missouri, that they don't teach basic American history and civics is what I've heard. I don't know.
Yeah, but those small town schools, let me tell you, you learn something there.
That could be wrong. I don't know. We'll ask Susan Pendergrass what they're teaching curriculum-wise.
You do. Apparently, I had a conversation with my 11-year-old yesterday, and she said, well, everyone tried to buzz in on this question about something about, I don't know, it's the body. And she said, they all answered DNA, but I got it right because it was chromosomes, because I watched a documentary about Down syndrome, and that means you're missing number 21, and I think it referenced the number. So they're learning something, because I was like, I just got schooled in, DNA and chromosomes.
She knew that Down syndrome was an extra 21st chromosome. Good for her.
Yeah.
So Representative Mike Lawler, though, was heard yelling, according to a Politico report. Of course, it's Politico, but let's take that at face value, was heard yelling outside the room where the centrist, the moderate Republican governance group, the RGG, was meeting with Speaker Johnson in attendance, venting about his opposition to a vote this week and mocking the assurance from some that Republicans could work on a party line health care bill next year. In other words, saying, hey, let's stop telling me you're going to talk about real health care reform. There are so-called moderate Republicans, I wonder how Republican they are, who are for extending these subsidies with little or no reform. You might as well, why don't you just join the Democrat Party if that's where you stand? I mean, come on, guys. I mean, and here's, I think, a strategic question that the Republicans in the leadership level, Donald Trump, RNC, that level, need to think. Is it time to just do what needs to be done, and the sacrificial lambs will be the midterm election of a Democratic House, but get all you can accomplished. I think they're going to lose the House anyway. That's what I suspect is going to happen. Historically, that's what happens. There's been, a couple of exceptions.
There's a ton of retirements.
Right.
That makes it much more difficult.
So why not just say, hey, we're holding the line. We're going to accomplish, as Bob Onder, who joined us in the 7:08 segment said, just let's get it done. Let's get some real reform, not just for those people who got the extended Obamacare subsidies that the Democrats voted on to sunset at the end of this year. That wasn't a Republican bill. The Democrats voted to do that. And they themselves now, they knew that this was going to come up. They knew that there was going to be some political hay to be made. They knew that there were going to be some political prices to be paid by at least moderate, if not more, GOP congressmen. Well, you know what? Maybe the price is you lose the midterms, but in the meantime, you do some meaningful reform. How nice would it be, ladies and gentlemen, if you work for a small employer who doesn't provide health care coverage, but you can put money into an HSA, and then you can use that HSA to go out and pay premiums, because now you can't. You can use it to pay a membership in a direct primary care practice, but you have to have an HSA connected to an insurance plan, blah, 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 blah. There's all kinds of strings attached. Why not have a pre-tax medical account that you can spend how you wish, whether it's on premiums or dental or vision or you name it, a CPAP machine, whatever. By the way, that's a very underdiagnosed problem. If those of you out there who suffer from early daytime fatigue, wake up feeling like you didn't sleep, maybe wake up with a headache, talk to your doc about getting tested for sleep apnea. It's one of the most revolutionary things many people can do for their health that they don't realize. But I digress. So how should the Republican leadership handle these moderate Republicans? Should they tell them to just stay in the corner and be quiet? Or should they accommodate them? 573-874-9390. Is it time to just be conservative and be a true Republican? Or is it time to cave, go namby-pamby, well, let's extend this time to days. I mean, instead, and not demand real reform. It sounds like they don't want to demand meaningful reform for the 150 million people who are not getting any relief from the extended subsidies. It doesn't affect them at all. Meanwhile, they continue to pay higher and higher premiums. I talked to, and I know many businessmen and women personally who are struggling to figure out the rate. This year's premiums are going up from anywhere between 8 and 16% at a minimum. I've heard people say premiums on behalf of their employees are going up 20%. And this argument does not affect them, and yet the Democrats would like you to think that it does. That if they don't get their way, that somehow, your premiums are going to go up 800%. Well, they're going to go up one way or another because the Democrats don't care about most of the people. They don't care about most of the people. They care about their progressive base. They don't really care about most of the people. If they really did, they wouldn't mandate that a 60-year-old woman needs to pay for child care and that a 25-year-old man and woman and their child have to pay for colonoscopies and prostate cancer. You should be able to get a plan that fits your needs. And I think you should have a plan that covers the big ticket items that most families don't have the money for to pay out of pocket.
I mean, you're making the same argument that we made when it was on the ballot for the minimum wage increase and the sick leave. It was rigid and unflexible, and I think not consistent with the realities of business. And part of the thing with the sick leave was, from an employee, I thought, a lot of people were talking about the burdens on employers. My argument was always like, as an employee, I was a young person. I was trying to pay for childcare. I'm trying to buy a house. I'm trying to, build up my savings. There's a lot of things. I'm trying to pay back my student loans. Yeah. And it's like, I don't need the sick leave. I'm young and I'm healthy and I want to be able to negotiate for a higher salary. Now, when I try to go in and do that, the employer says, no, the government's requiring me to give you sick leave instead of cash. Mm-hmm. And all I want is more cash. Right. Yep. And so I think, we should, we're not too stupid, right? Stealing one of these Gary Nolan lines, right? To be able to decide how we want to best spend our money. And the government thinks it's smarter than us and that it has to tell us, and limit our options. And you're right, Randy. I think putting more responsibility on the individual, putting some of this money back into our pocket. And, if you don't spend that money and go get the health care that you need, if you're not getting the tests that are recommended, that's on you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm not against. And in fact, Do you know who came up with the idea of a mandate for insurance? You have any clue, Drake Whitman? Your jaw will drop, brother, when you hear this. Do you know who came up originally with and proposed the idea of a government, a federally mandated health insurance, a threshold, a bar that you had to have a certain amount of insurance?
Who?
The Heritage Foundation back in the early 90s. And the argument being, if you have to go to the hospital, if you're able to go to the hospital and demand care because you've got an emergency, you should have catastrophic coverage. And that's what they were advocating. Look, when you go out on the road, you have to have liability insurance, right? Because your decision making behind the wheel can impact others, right? So therefore, we, the government, are going to say, look, for the protection of the public at large needs to have insurance. Okay, I get that. That makes sense to me. But a mandate for catastrophic coverage is a far cry for a mandate from birth control pills need to be covered. Prostate screening needs to, colonoscopy needs to be covered. Everything needs to be, yes, those are good things. Those are desirable things.
I don't mind birth control pills being covered. I think that's great. Personally.
I'm speechless when Drake says things like that.
I mean,
because it's a family show.
He's the youth. He's the youth. What
Welcome to the Match.com of Monday mornings or Wednesday mornings on KWTO, KWOS, and 93.9.
I'd rather birth control pills be, covered than abortions.
Think that through. Do you really want that? Think that through.
Think that through. Think through what the word rage bait means.
What does a package of birth control pill cost?
$10 a month.
10 or $12,
something
right?
like that.
Now, I mean that's a couple of lattes at your local coffee company, right? Think that through. Do you really want to have that cost spread across the insurance market? Do you really want to have the cost of a $100 mammogram, or $150 mammogram? Does that really need to be covered? As much as I beg my patients, I hope they'll get mammograms. Shouldn't that be a personal choice? On the other hand, if someone has a stroke and they go into the emergency room, or a seizure and they go in, shouldn't that...
Because they were rage baited and their blood pressure's too high?
Oh, I have a story when we come back. John's not in today. He's at Buckeye in Jefferson City on our 1-for-1 food drive. I have a story that'll give you a big chuckle when we come back.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
So, I want you to play it. Play John's intro for me. I want you to play it. If I'm going to do the story.
And that would be all, except for this.
Well, no one can do this segment like John, but Drake says, you want me to play it? Want me to play it? Yeah, I want you to play it. This is a hilarious story. So we're at church the other day after Bible class and talking with a great friend and her husband and talking about the things that give you a big chuckle. And I don't know how we got into the story, but I think we were talking about some of the problems that people have when they're driving down the road and all of a sudden, you see a police car and you know that you get worried because maybe you've been a couple miles over the speed limit. And this comes from a friend who was talking to her husband driving down one of Columbia's streets. And she was having a mountaintop day, let's just put it that way. And she's on the phone with her husband. And she's like, you wouldn't believe what happened. I did this and I got this accomplished at work. And then I was able to get some stuff done at the house. And then a friend called and it was just like the best of conversations. I hadn't talked to her and she's on the phone with her husband. And she says, and all of a sudden, her husband's standing there, we're having this conversation. And she says, and all of a sudden, I passed a police car. And I pulled over. She said, and I'm not going to use her name. She's a great member of the Wake Up family, likes to listen to us, and a great, great friend from church. Because she felt guilty. She just knew she was like 10 miles over the speed limit in a 35 or a 40. And she pulled over. That's how virtuous this person is. She's a person of great virtue, and I have to compliment her. She knows that.
We've all been guilty of kind of slamming on our
And her
wrists.
husband said, what are you doing? And the cop pulls up and said,
are you okay, ma'am?
No, actually, he joked with her. God love this police officer. He said, ma'am, he said, when you pull over, that automatically tells me you're guilty. Because apparently she passed him, whatever.
Oops.
And it was just a funny, funny story to think. It was just an automatic move. There were no bubbles going on. He didn't turn on the bubble lights. She voluntarily pulled over. Now, is that ever a George Washington cut down the cherry tree story, if you ever heard it? I mean, it's a fabulous story.
Well, and I think, too, if you're just honest, a lot of times they'll be lenient with you, I think. And the last time I got pulled over, I was listening to some audio. I was eating something.
Right.
And I see the lights. I'm like, oh, darn it. And he pulls me over and he's like, ma'am, do you know how fast you were going? And I go, I honestly have no idea.
No
I was
clue.
not paying attention. And I'm like, I thought I had my thing set. I'm like, I'm sorry. I was just like, whatever. And he's like, and he looks at me and I look all frazzled and I've got food and he's like, just slow down and be safe, right? And I'm not going to argue with him. It's just.
And that got us to talking about women crying and getting out of tickets and other, hard spots, And I asked her, does that always work? I don't think she cried in this instance, but she said it didn't work in Montana when she was visiting her son up there. She got pulled over, but I just thought it was really a cute story, and it was a good. And the officer did not give her a citation, but I mean, I just thought it was. He did give her a warning.
Yeah,
obviously.
I don't think my mom cried, but she always tells this funny story. She was on a church trip with a bunch of youth and was leading the thing, and got pulled over for speeding.
Yeah.
And
oh boy,
and felt really bad about it. I think I can tattle on her at this point.
It's like being on your cell phone during dinner and telling your kids too much screen time.
Right. Oops.
Susan Pendergrass about 4-day school week and more.
Morning Addiction.
But we were able to use our tools and build evidence that's usable in a court of law.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team.
People are being squeezed across America.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Welcome back into the third hour of Wake Up Missouri. I am Randy. There's Stephanie and Drake alongside. Now, John is at the Buckeye, or will be at the Buckeye, if he's not already, in Jefferson City. Stephanie will be there a little bit later this afternoon at 3:30. Others will be out there from KWOS and Cat Country and other Zimmer stations. Zimmer Communications is one of the sponsors of this event that's called the One for One Food and Fun Drive 2025. It's the 19th annual one. Benefits the food bank for Central Northeast Missouri, and your gift of $1 will buy 3 meals, and you'll double that power with a match, and that total match will be up to $50,000. And we thank Douglas Drown and an anonymous donor for that $50,000 match commitment. It is a tough time for many families out there. No matter what they say on Wall Street, Main Street is hurting in many realms for many reasons. And so we hope you'll come out and say hi. I'll be out at the Columbia Mall a little later this morning, and Drake will be out there as well. Drake, when are you out there?
At 9:30.
9:30.
That's when I'll get out there.
Alrighty.
You'll get to meet me. And some people don't think I'm real yet, so...
come out and, bring some food items, but bring money even better, because they make that money stretch it so far, it's unbelievable.
Look for the guy in the pickle suit.
Yes.
I will not be wearing the pickle suit. I have to be professional for this.
For the guy wearing the Buffalo Bills or Cincinnati Bengals jersey, not the Kansas City Chiefs. And then razz him. Make sure you give him a lot of grief over that.
I should have worn my Joe Burrow jersey.
Oh, man, whatever. Well, I wonder if Susan Pendergrass wears a Joe Burrow jersey. I don't know what her favorite team is. Let's find out now. She's with the Show Me Institute. Susan, what jersey do you sport when you're sporting an NFL jersey?
I'm not a real football person. My team has been the Denver Broncos, but not for any particular reason. I'm just out there.
She's the director of
college.
She's the director of education policy, and of course an expert in many realms, including education, and with the Show Me Institute at showmeinstitute.org. So we talked a little bit about, we thought that Southern Boone, very near and dear to the heart of Stephanie Bell, was talking about having a 4-day school week for recruitment and retention. Parents push back not on an academic achievement line, reportedly, but more on daycare, child care line, which I thought was interesting. What does the data tell us about recruitment and retention advantages of a 4-day work week for teachers? And on the other hand, what does it tell us about student achievement versus a 5-day school week?
Yeah, I mean, the Show Me Institute has looked into this a lot because it's really kind of caught fire across the state of Missouri, more so than other states. And I think it must be just sort of a trend that other districts are seeing. And of course, everyone wants a 4-day work week, right? But our society is built on a 5-day work week. So most parents of school-age children work 5 days. So when you make it a 4-day school week, that sort of brings up a day that parents don't have a place for their kids to be. Now, what we find is that it does not have much impact. Interestingly, you would think it would impact finances because that's what a lot of districts say, and it doesn't really. Yeah, you keep the lights off for a day, but teachers' salaries are the bulk of what school districts pay for, and those don't change. It really does not have an academic impact in one way or the other. It's kind of mixed. You might think it would go down because kids have that 3-day gap every week, but it really doesn't, when you add 45 minutes to the end of the day or something, it doesn't really impact kids one way or the other. And the most interesting thing, though, is that it hasn't really impacted recruitment and retention. So teachers like it better, to be clear, but it's not like they're able, it's easier to hire teachers or to keep teachers from what we've seen in the data. So there isn't a lot of good rationale for doing it. And our only point of view is that, or mine, is that if a district's going to move to the 4-day school week and they've taken the vote of parents and everyone has agreed this is what they're doing, then you have to give parents who don't want a 4-day school week a different option. You have to combine that with some form of choice. You can't force a family into a 4-day schedule when the premise of our education system has been 5 days. You just can't force it. But if a family wants to choose it, I'm okay with that.
You know, if I put on my hat of a family that's already paying property taxes and would love to send their kid to a parochial or private school and just don't have the extra money to do that, and now you go to a 4-day school in the public school that they're sort of feel forced into, and now they have to pay additional daycare. Wow, that seems like a double whammy, doesn't it, financially?
It does, and a lot of those districts will keep a school open where kids can go to, but it may not be the way you want your child to spend the day. You know, like a lot of parents in the pandemic realized that in a school day, kids aren't doing a ton of school. So when you take one of those days away, and we talk about this a lot at Show Me Institute, 42% of Missouri fourth graders cannot read. They are below the basic level of reading. This isn't a good time to be taking a day off every week.
I agree, and that was part of my thing. I mean, Southern Boone had good APR scores this last year, and it was like, why are we trying to fix something that doesn't appear to be broken?
Yeah.
And now that I have older kids, certainly the childcare burden could be less, but I was panicked when my kids were younger about the childcare issue, and I think panicked for other parents who have, young kids. It's really tough. Can you talk, switching gears here a little bit, Governor Kehoe announced this working group to address school funding formula, and that group has continued to meet. And so while we're talking, scheduling is one thing, but I think really at the heart of a lot of the debate about education, whether we're talking, these ESA programs or whether we're talking traditional public school, a lot of it's about funding. What's the status of that working group, and when are we going to start seeing, some, because I think their charge is to propose fundamental changes to how education's funded in Missouri. When are we going to start seeing that?
Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing preliminary things soon. What I'm worried about is that it's not going to be that different than what we have. But I know that they are trying to make it more student-centered. So as the world, and certainly this country, and a little bit Missouri, moves towards a system where parents are choosing where their kids go to school and not being assigned based on your address, we need money to be able to easily follow that child as you move from, if you're in a 4-day school week and you don't like it, and you need to be able to move to a 5-day school week, you need the funding to follow the child more. So the way the current formula works, a couple of major problems. It's based on 2005 property values, which kind of blows my mind. And it doesn't really take into account student characteristics like students who are economically disadvantaged or have a disability. So they're making it more student-centered and hopefully more mobile as kids move around. But then they're also really, I think, struggling with how much should the local share be and how much should the state share be. And the local share has been set now for 20 years, since 2005, and the dollar amount has been pretty well set. So if that becomes more either bigger or more changeable, with inflation or something, then I think we might get pushed back at the local level. So they might release something really soon, but I would imagine that there's going to be quite a long period of discussion around it as you get, superintendents and school boards on board, hopefully.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this. What could turn out to be an existential threat to a choice-centric program, which is about charter schools, filed by the Columbia Public School District against the state of Missouri, Catherine Hanaway, the State Board of Education, saying that it's unconstitutional. Now that Frontier out of Kansas City has planned to put in a charter in Boone County. What's your reading of the tea leaves here?
I mean, I don't know what you think, but I smell fear for one thing, because if you think you have a great system and the parents don't need more choice because you're already offering them plenty of choices, which is what Columbia School Board always says, we have these special schools if you can get into them. We already offer choice. We don't need more choice. Well, if that is true, then parents won't sign up for the charter school, right? But I think they're afraid that when Frontier Schools of Innovation come in, and it's a STEM-heavy college prep program, parents might pick it. And how does that make Columbia 93 look? Like, maybe parents aren't as happy as what we pretend that they are. And I think they just don't want to be faced with that reality that people, when given the choice, will leave. And I will tell you, you mentioned, Stephanie, the APR scores, which I think are pretty meaningless, honestly. It's not a very good system.
Right.
If you really were honest with the schools, there's a middle school in Columbia, Oakland, that would probably be an F school. It's designated as by the state as being on the list of the 5% of lowest performing schools. It has multiple incidences of violence every year, and that is a middle school in Columbia Public Schools. And I probably would not want to send my 12-year-old there, and I can imagine a lot of other people wouldn't want to send their child to that school and might want a choice if that's where they happen to live in that attendance zone. So to say Columbia 93 doesn't need a charter school because everyone is happy is absurd, and to say the way we're going to make sure that we keep our monopoly is by suing to maintain it and not allowing any competition or choice sounds like fear to me. And the reality is that most of the rest of the country, parents are choosing schools and not being assigned anymore. It's coming to Missouri. You can try to turn back the clock, but it's not going to happen. I don't think that lawsuit will be successful. And there's also the other charter school that's trying to get opened in Columbia, which would serve dropout recovery students. And, they're not fighting that one quite as hard, but this is the reality is that every family in the state of Missouri should have the option of choosing a charter school if that's what they want. And no one forces them to go there. So Columbia Public Schools can make sure they serve every family so well they don't want to go there, but instead they're just trying to use the court system to make sure no one leaves.
Well, I think it's pretty established that both in St. Louis and Kansas City, they're popular and they'd like to have more, right? Charter schools.
And I will tell you that Stanford does these very high-quality studies. They are known for the highest quality studies on charter school. They've been doing them for decades now, and it's complicated the way they do it. And not only do they find that, on average, charter school students outperform their peers in the school that they would have gone to. They make these little virtual twins. But the results are strongest in Missouri. Like St. Louis and Kansas City charter schools outperform even the national numbers. So we have very good charter schools. And the idea that parents won't want them is crazy. I'm sure these schools will open, and I hope that they thrive.
Well, there's Show Me Institute's Director of Research, Susan Pendergrass. I'm going to say she Susan-splained that Columbia public school system. That's what we're going to call it. Susan's splaining it to them. All right. We'll see what happens. Hey, I hope we can, after you've had a chance to comb through some of the pre-filed bills on education, and we can touch base on that in the next few weeks, okay?
Definitely.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you, Susan. And Merry Christmas to you if we don't talk to you before then.
Same. You too.
All righty. There she is, Susan Pendergrass. The Market Report on the Morning Bell coming up.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Stephanie.
A mixed bag yesterday with the Dow down 0.62%, the S&P down 0.24%, the NASDAQ bumping up slightly, positive 0.23%. We had big losses in energy and health and real estate yesterday, while communication services, consumer discretionary, and technology were all slightly up. Now, we're starting to get some of that delayed economic data that we were waiting on. We really wanted it apparently before the Fed meeting, but we still got our interest rate cut last week. Still, the jobs numbers, pictures are not great, and people are digging into the data that arrived yesterday. So in November, we added just 64,000 jobs. In October, of course, we lost 105,000 jobs. That means unemployment hit 4.6%. That's the highest since 2021. Now, some of that, Randy, is amongst federal jobs. Of course, federal job cuts pushed 160,000 workers off the payroll in October alone. Apparently, workers are pretty discouraged. Discouraged workers is at a rate of 8.7%. That's the highest since 2021. Those are part-timers wanting full-time jobs and those who have stopped looking. So it's not great. And then on top of all that news, Fed Chair Jerome Powell says the job numbers since April might be inflated. Now, we had some, playing with the jobs numbers during the Biden administration, and they were later revised. So even though we're already kind of getting a grim picture, and then the trust in the numbers, are they the real numbers, isn't very high. So not great.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, maybe he's just jousting a little bit with Trump, huh? Like, oh, you think it's been so good, buddy? Think again.
Well, and of course, Trump is looking to replace him. I think his term is set to expire, the end of next year, and he's already kind of been jockeying at who might be that replacement option. So it's, and
he's talking about Kevin Hassett, I guess, has the lead position there, right?
Yes, we have heard that. Also, I think maybe we are also tipping the scales with respect to tipping. There was a lot of conversations there for a minute, like, why am I tipping all the time? And you were not alone, but apparently in New York, they passed a new law, and Uber and DoorDash have jointly filed a lawsuit, this was last week, against the New York law. And the legislation is scheduled to take effect on January 26th. They've alleged that it violates the First Amendment. And apparently it would require these apps, again, Uber and DoorDash, to display a tipping option before you finalize your order, and it sets the default of the tip at 10%. I don't like when they set the default tip. It makes me angry, right? And a lot of there for a while, people were like setting the default tip at like 30. And so it's like, or 25, and I think for most people, you get what, you go in, you get the service you expect. 20% is a pretty big benchmark, but don't just assume that you're giving me good service. Like, let me pick. It feels presumptuous.
I agree.
So good on Uber and DoorDash for filing these lawsuits, because I think the tipping culture has gotten pretty crazy. And what we're seeing, though, is a report released by the city last year found, because of the minimum wage hike and this screen bump that you get every time where they spin it around and they're like, are you going to tip? Then you feel pressure by the people behind you, because they're like, they going to think that I'm a bad person if I'm not tipping or not tipping enough? That report said that order fees on apps jumped 46% and tip amounts dropped 68%. And so you're getting a lot of fees, but people are finally kind of they're fed up.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I mean, whenever I did Uber Eats, like 10%, I could end up working and getting, like a 25% tip for being so fast. So, I mean, it ends up hurting the workers as well.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't like
I wonder if with people realizing that workers aren't going to be paying a tax on tips, if they're just going to compensate and say, hey, well, I'll go to 15% now because you're not paying a tax on it.
If they're going to lower their tipping
Yeah,
amount?
right.
That's a good question.
I wonder.
I hadn't thought about that.
Oops. All those servers out there are now going to not serve me.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always know what's going on. I don't
Phoebe, you are a senior, so we asked you what Ella wanted to do. Tell us here, how can we be manifesting this in the future for you? What do you want to do?
Ella really was outspoken, and I just want to live through her in that way, and try to make a difference. I spoke with our mutual friend who was also in Brown Republicans, and he just said we have to live a purposeful life for Ella, and
Okay.
The two of you had plans to go to church on Sunday, and the next time you're in church, she's going to be with you. You've got an angel in heaven, Phoebe. Thank you for sharing her story. It's really, really important that we get to know her.
That was an emotional moment on America Newsroom on Fox with a close friend of the Brown University victim, Ella Cook, who was the vice president of the College Republican Club there. And Ella was one of the two victims of that Brown shooting. And boy, from all reports, that has been a bungled police. Well, it started out with the lack of security cameras in an old building, 1922, where this classroom was in, a building built then, and there had been an add-on newer structure with cameras galore. So they have a lot of footage of the students who were in a study session when this happened, before finals, running out of, obviously, in the chaos, trying to escape the shooting that was going on. All they have now is an enhanced video of this guy that appears, initially they were talking about a 30-year-old guy. This guy does not look 30. Have you seen that video of this Brown, the person of interest, walking very nonchalantly down the street, has a characteristic gait, looks older than 30 to me. Have you seen it, Drake?
No, I don't like, assuming ages of people. It gets me in trouble, so usually I try and stay away from it.
Sure, like making fun of older and wiser people, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you look the part. Like, there's no questioning it. Like, you're old, but, you can't ask someone who's 40 who might be 30 or might be 50.
Yeah, the other day when you were trying to get out of the studio to the control room and I was trying to get in, I kicked your butt then. Remember that? Remember that one?
Yeah, you wish that's how it went down, Randy.
had a little offensive and defensive line interaction there. It was good.
I would love to do an Oklahoma drill with you, Randy.
Yeah?
So I'd be worried, though, because, if you break your hip at your age.
Are you talking about Broadway, Oklahoma, where Oklahoma drill?
And that proves my point even more.
I don't know about you.
You just broke out into song and dance like it's Broadway.
Well, what'd you think? I mean, come on. Oklahoma means different things to different people.
Yeah, for old people, they think it's
Have you seen Oklahoma?
Yes, I have.
Well, thank you. Well, does that make you an old person because you enjoyed an American classic stage production?
Well, Randy, whenever I say let's do an Oklahoma drill, that means that we're going to put our pads on and tackle each other, not, Oklahoma. Like, what are we doing?
Well, if you want to come and meet...
This is off the rails.
The interesting character known as Drake Whitman, you can see him out there till 11, from 9:30 to 11 at Columbia Mall. You can see yours truly from around 10:30 till, 12-ish or so, a little after 12. And then Brian Hauswirth, 1 to 3. And Peter will be out there from 5 to 7. Now, at Buckheit's in Jefferson City on the 1-for-1 food drive, you can go and say hi to John Marsh. He's out there now. Be out there till 10. And Stephanie will be there from 3:30. Is that right?
Yep, to 5.
My schedule says 3. Would you report at 3, please? The schedule you presented me says 3.
Okay, 3. Whatever it says.
I don't know, 3:30. Come out and say hi to Stephanie. But most importantly, when you do that, Stephanie, we want folks to take advantage of that up to $50,000 match. If you'd like to come off and drop a $50,000 check off, say hi to Stephanie, and then due to the wonderful match of some wonderful people, Douglas Drown and an anonymous donor, you can match that, and that will help buy. How many at $1 buys 3 meals? How many would 50,000? My God, that would be a lot of meals, right? 150,000 meals. Whew, that'd be great. And they are giving them away like hotcakes at the Food Bank for Central and Northeast Missouri because the demand, as you reported in the morning bell, Stephanie, things are not as rosy as I think President Trump may may want to portray tonight on his address at 8 p.m. That'll be broadcast on KWTO and KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle at 8 o'clock our time. Announced sort of hastily yesterday out of the blue. I mean, don't we have a State of the Onion speech coming up here in January? Don't we? State of the Onion? Onion.
Okay, I was making sure that
your
old age didn't get...
Did you think I...
I don't know with you sometimes.
You don't know when I'm kidding, do you?
No, sometimes you go off into your little,
most often, I'm toying with you, Drake. You don't know that, do you?
So you're just acting old in front of me? That's your toying with me?
Of course, yeah. I put on this mask every morning.
Yeah, the food prices is a bad thing because Randy can't afford his applesauce that he has at the nursing home.
and the green beans that you can take out of a can and you can gum them, right? No problem. So, but seriously, why is he doing this? Does anyone have some thoughts, some suspicions, some speculation?
It's the polling, I think. It's getting to him. He doesn't like the fact that people there's this disconnect between what we hear from Caroline Leavitt and from Trump and from J.D. Vance, that we're chalking up all of these wins, and the people still feel bad about what's going on in D.C., and they still feel bad about the economy and what the food that they can put on their table.
It seems like every time I go to any sit-down restaurant, I'm paying $15, $16 for a burger.
Or just like a takeaway lunch is like $20.
I don't want to be told that things are just rosy. I mean, just be honest with me.
I mean, I'm feeling pretty good when I pull up to the gas pump. Those prices are better. I'm feeling good when I buy eggs. But certainly, I think, Trump made a lot of promises during the campaign and said we're going to right this ship. I personally don't fault him because he has said it's going to take time, right? And that's what we're hearing out of the administration, especially with respect to the bad jobs reports, right? Like, we can't just bring back manufacturing jobs. There's kind of a lag. We heard that from Aaron Hedlund when he's joined us from the Show Me Institute and from the White House, saying, look, it's going to take a minute on some of these things. That doesn't change how people are feeling today when they're asked about it. And I think it's making Trump nervous. And obviously, we've got midterms and they're going to be here before we know it. We've had chalked up some big losses in Virginia and New Jersey and elsewhere. And so I think he wants to try to get out in front of it, which I think is a good thing.
It's a political five-alarm fire in the GOP, and there's infighting going on about the silly health care. You think that someone that has an elephant on their T-shirt could agree that we're not going to extend the subsidies? Sorry, Chuck Schumer. Sorry, Hakeem Jeffries. Sorry, AOC. It ain't going to happen. We're not going to extend the subsidies until you reform the atrocity called Obamacare for all Americans, not just for your 20 million. And I feel sorry for some of you who may be losing your subsidies, but after all, those were extended temporarily for many people, lost their subsidies, or lost their health, lost their job, lost the employer-covered insurance. And, okay, they had to go out on the exchange. I get that. But things are different now, right? And there was really no cap on income for the subsidies. They're just trying to take those back and reel it back to the original Obamacare. And the Democrats are getting away like bandits with their rhetoric. They are winning the rhetorical war. Oh, we don't want health care premiums to go up 800% for people. There's a few people that may. Now, I got to say, there's a pretty darn good text here. We got to go catch up on some text. Okay, so I told the story earlier of a friend of ours who she passes a police officer she's talking to her husband about the greatest day she's had in a long time. She passes a Columbia police patrol car who doesn't have his lights on, or maybe he's on the side of the road. I think it was on the side of the road. And she was speeding in a slower area, 40, 35, 40, 45. And she tells her husband, I just passed a police car. I'm pulling over. And he's like, what do you mean you're pulling over? Are his lights on? No. It was just
turning myself in. Just slap the cuffs on me now.
Which led to a discussion about when women cry, do police officers listen? Which led to a text from Zim Schwartz. It says, women crying doesn't work with me. Have a great day.
See, and I think it probably doesn't work with other women. Also, if you don't know Zim Schwartz, she was actually on American Gladiator. She is a certified bad.
Great person.
I mean, she's
great person.
She's serious.
Great law enforcement.
But I think the crying probably only works with dudes. I've never tried it, but.
And of course, they wouldn't text us and admit it. They wouldn't do that. But if you want to, that's okay. 573-874-94.
I'm not going to lie. I selectively pick. I remember when I had to do my, what was that, global entry interview. And so I'm coming back through customs and, they said you had to be there by 6 or something to do your interview. And it was 6:05. And I took a look at all of the various agents, and I might have picked like the younger guy who kind of looked nice and maybe batted my eyes and said, I know I'm 5 minutes after the deadline when I was supposed to be here, but do you think you could help me out a little bit?
Yeah.
And he did. He
Really?
did. But I selectively picked who I thought would be the easiest sell.
And then the whole issue of the information wars, I think Ken gets it right. The Dems, he says the Dems, but they're not dim-witted in this instance. They're right. The Dems are winning the misinformation wars.
And I think Chris's text about the tipping is really interesting.
I've cut down on tipping, says Chris, because it's expected. If another 15 to 20% is expected, raise the wage. And in other countries, tipping is often viewed as insulting and a form of American egotism. We had a good discussion during a break here. Do you tip on the final bill, on the tax, or on the service before the tax?
My math skills aren't that good. I tip on whatever's at the bottom of the ticket. That's tax.
I'm sorry.
You subtract the tax out and look at the subtotal.
There's
and
a
then
subtotal before the tax. I tip on. Why should someone? I mean, it's a logical thing with me. The server did not earn the tax. They didn't do anything to earn the tax. The state earned the tax. And so I want to tip generously on the service provided. That's what you're tipping on, and that's based indirectly on the cost of the goods served.
Cheapskate Randy over here.
I will do that like at the salon. If I had $100 haircut, but I bought $50 in products, I tip on the service, not on the products, but that not in your circumstance. The thing that catches me is that at large group dinners, sometimes they automatically add the tip, and then you miss that, and so you've already been charged the 18% mandatory, and then I tip the 20 on top of that, and then I'm like later I'm like, oh gosh darn it. So you got to watch out for that.
Now,
it's caught me a couple of times.
I'll use the pre-tax subtotal, but I'll often go north of 20% if it's great service, right?
Oh.
So there you go.
Here we go.
I try to. It's logical. What are tips for? Are they for service or are
logical or Randy's logic? I think those are two separate things.
My logic is the correct logic. I roll emoji by Drake there, and everyone listening in the Wake Up family. I get it. Darren says when Randy and Drake meet in their offensive line Oklahoma drill, Darren says, sweep the leg, Drake. I'm calling a personal foul. We'll wrap it up after this.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Up here with the leftovers, but first over, there's people that not only don't have leftovers, they don't even have the first run on a meal. They'll benefit for the one-for-one food bank drive, and that's the Food and Fun Drive to benefit the food bank for Central and Northeast Missouri. Going on as we speak at the Buckeye and Jefferson City and Columbia Mall. They're on sort of the northeast corner of the mall. Well, at least that's where it usually is. Maybe I spoke out of turn. The last couple of years, that's where it's been. I assume that's where it'll be. But you'll see that usually the fire truck with the thing extended because the firefighters of the area involved in that, as well as Zimmer Communications and all the radio stations affiliated. So you'll see the trucks out there wrapped in their beautiful logos and come out and say hi to everyone that you listen to. Come and spank Drake around a little bit for being a Chiefs detractor. Now, you might be changing on that a little bit.
I'm looking at what the Chiefs could do for their draft picks for the next couple of years, just their first round draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs, they definitely have an alley to be the best team in football, like better than the Patriots. And it would be fun football, not like, last minute of the game, blocked field goal to, win the game like it was last year.
Yeah.
They could get Jeremiah Love, which is the Heisman running back, which they could, I think that would be an awesome combination. And they can get, is it Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver from Ohio State? I mean, you guys would be unstoppable, and I'd like to be in on that party. So
now you're changing colors there. When they're not on the mountaintop, you're becoming more of a supporter.
Well, you can't join them on the mountaintop because then you're bandwagoning. And I'm going to be quite honest, it was because I saw one of the Chiefs jerseys the other day, and I thought that they look so clean, and I love their jerseys.
Yeah,
so.
They're nice. So now, hey, wait a minute. It's not tonight, but tomorrow is the Missouri State Bears' first bowl game.
Hey.
The Xbox Bowl.
Have you seen their trophy for the Xbox Bowl?
No.
It is cool.
Is it good?
It's a good trophy.
They're playing the Arkansas State Red Wolves out of the Sun Belt Conference. That'll be at 8 p.m. Central Time. Huh. So that's tomorrow evening. Well, I really hope that they kick some butt. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, they really will. That program has really emerged from some doldrums to really doing wonderfully.
Well, you look at some teams like JMU, they just joined the FBS like 3 years ago, and now they're in the playoffs. So, I mean, Missouri State, if they can keep this momentum up, it'll be exciting to watch them.
Now, but they've had a coaching issue down there, right? So the interim head coach is Nick Petrino because Ryan Beard went to Coastal Carolina. Huh. So we have an interim coach. Wow. Well, we'll see how that goes. Petrino. Sounds like the old Penn State coach. Joe Paterno. You say Petrino, I say Paterno. Let's call the whole coach off.
Here's a leftover. Last night, the Missouri Republican Party, the state committee, the executive committee met, and they officially endorsed Mike Kehoe's intent to eliminate the Missouri state income tax.
Yeah, baby.
The motion was offered by none other than Zimmer's own Jennifer Bukowski, who was the vice chair, of course, of the state party, and received support. So
beautiful.
Everyone's all in on this income tax cut. I think we're going to be talking a lot about it come January.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear Gary Nolan's take on this speech coming up tonight and the motive behind it and maybe what some of the content will be. And later on, Mike Murphy, of course, on the Eagle Eye Drive at 5 with this Columbia Public School suit against the state and the Boone County. I can't wait to hear what's going to happen on that. I'm sure Mike will be talking about that off and on throughout the coming evenings. And we hope you'll be back with us as we will unpack and review and analyze the president's talk tonight. That's at 8 p.m. on all our stations. See you then.
Bye.